Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Improvly Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Dana Gowan, and I'm so excited that you're joining for this fantastic, awesome, amazing episode. Our guest today is just amazing, and I cannot wait to jump in. A little spoiler alert, I'll do her full intro, but she is a therapist who also does improv on the side. And I don't know why I said side like that, but she she is a therapist who also does improv on the side. And I think that is so cool to see how these skills and tenets of improv translate into her work as a therapist and helping people. Now, if you're joining for the first time, welcome. So glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. On this podcast, I like to interview experienced improvisers and speakers, people who take improv classes for their professional development to better their skills and their careers. And then also to interview people who use improv in their daily lives and don't really think of it as improv, just kind of go with the flow and use those skills without really calling it improv. And our guest today, Salma, is really all three of those. She's been doing improv for a long time. She uses it in her therapy work, and she is just the ultimate go with the flow, light up energy. She is amazing. So improv, I think, just flows through her soul and her body. I'm really talking it up as I should. Let me tell you about our guest today, Salma Soliman. Salma is a therapist and founder of Brave Youth Therapy, which specializes in individual therapy, family therapy, and couples therapy in California. She has her undergrad degree in psychology from Rutgers University and her Master of Social Work degree from University of Southern California. She has over a decade of experience in offering compassionate and effective therapy for adolescents, families, and young adults. One of her focus areas, which really interested me, is treating eating disorders and helping individuals heal and also develop a healthy relationship with food, mental health, and body image. Her goal is to support clients in uncovering their brave hearts and growing minds, guiding them towards healing and personal growth. I love that. When she is not therapizing, you can find her doing improv, clowning, and musical improv, or you can find her basking in the sunshine of Southern California, cuddling her two adorable cats, Sophia and Geppetto, which I hear they are lurking close by. They may make an appearance on this episode. She's always traveling or immersed in DIY projects and painting. Please welcome the strong, the silly, the sensational, the super supportive Salma Soliman. Yay, Salma.
I'll hold for the applause.
Still going. It's still going.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dane. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here too. This has been, I think, a long time coming doing this interview. As soon as I found out you were a therapist, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to hear how you use the skills of improv. With that, I know it, and you said it shows up in your work, so
totally.
We'll jump into that. I want to tell our listeners a little bit about how we met and how we know each other. So we met in musical improv level 1 class at Westside Comedy Theater in January 2023.
Yep.
However, we actually crossed paths at Camp Improv Utopia in September 22, and we didn't realize it.
Yeah. You looked familiar, and I was like, wait a minute. Hey. I know you. I think it was at the end of camp where we both were like, oh my gosh, we both live in LA. I'm so bummed I didn't get to talk to you more. Hopefully we'll connect. And then a few months later, we found each other.
I'm so glad we did too. Yeah, and I do think you were doing genre workshop at camp. And genre tends to be a little seclusive, secluded. They tend to go off to the other side of camp and they do their little practices. We don't get to see you as much. I feel like that's part of it too.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that we did the musical improv class together. And then after that class, you were like, hey, friends, I want to start a musical improv team. Who's in? And we had quite a few raise their hand, and then some dropped off. But
Yeah.
the core group who has stayed is now our team,
Singing
in
in
the rain.
the range. Yeah. And gosh, we didn't celebrate our 1-year anniversary, but we just passed it.
We did. Well, I consider it like March or April. What do you consider our anniversary as?
I'll have to go back and look at the date of our first rehearsal together, but I was looking at, like in WhatsApp at the bottom, it tells you when like that group chat was created. And I want to say that was like March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It took us a while to have a name.
Yeah.
I think it took us a good month.
Credit to the name to you.
It came on a whim, and
That's so good.
I was like, I'm gonna just put it in the chat, see if they like it.
We loved it.
And I'm so glad. I love our name, Singing in the Range.
I
It's
do
fun.
too. It's a good one. That's a good one.
It really sets expectations too, because we always sing within range.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Well, and Salma, I'm so glad you put it out there like, hey, I want to start a team. You're so organized. You've been such an amazing team leader for our group. Honestly, I think everyone on our team would say this. Without you, our team would have fallen apart months ago. We would not have made it to our 1-year anniversary. So thanks for just putting in all the effort, securing coaches, getting, practice facilities, getting us shows. I mean, you're amazing. And I'm just so glad.
Thank you so much, Dana.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful to have you as a friend in LA too. I mean, we go to all these improv classes, you make friends, but you really are such a joyful energy to have around too. And you also helped co-host my baby shower in April this year. You are a tremendous events coordinator and also a game show host, because you led a baby shower family feud game.
I did. It was so fun.
You are so good at it. Oh, I'm just so grateful. So thanks for everything.
Of course. My pleasure.
Okay, well, I've buttered you up and talked you up enough, and it's all well-earned, well-deserved. And Selma, I know you've been doing improv for a long time, and I don't know exactly how long, but tell us about your improv journey and how and why did you get started in improv?
Yeah. So I moved out to California in 2012. Does that sound right? I think so. And growing up, I never really had hobbies. And the biggest thing that I maybe like stuck with was track when I was in high school for maybe a year. But honestly, it was just to go to track meets to meet boys at other schools.
It's really honestly
a typical teenage thing.
Good motivation there.
That didn't last very long, but I never really had hobbies. So moving out to California, I thought it was like a great opportunity to really just explore parts of my identity that like I never really had an opportunity to. And also just like discovering things that I like, I want to do. And so the world of theater, and I think in middle school, I had taken like an improv. It was part of the theater program of the school. And so I'd always had like improv in the back of my mind. And then I finally, when I was living in San Diego when I first moved out to California. And so I found an improv school. I went to a drop-in class and the rest is history. I've been doing improv ever since then. So I want to say it was probably around maybe 8 or 9 years ago now.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, that's almost 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. And what kept you in it, staying and doing improv classes for almost 10 years?
I feel very lucky in that, the community that you find and you build, but like also improv in general is like the community of improv is such a welcoming and inviting and a very friendly community. And I think improv was probably that world that I was in was probably the first time that I felt like very connected and like truly in a place of belonging. And so I didn't want to let that feeling go. And then every like new thing that I did within that improv world just solidified my like sense of belonging there. So I had started with just like regular improv, and then I saw a musical improv show and I was like, oh, wow, like I want to do that. And it was, this sounds silly, but I truly mean it. Like growing up, I used to think in song. Like I would sing to myself all the time. So I was like
Really?
always a musical improviser without even knowing it. And so then when I like saw musical improv, I'm like, oh my God, this is a thing. I'm like this is literally me. Like why am I not doing this? And then I've just been doing musical improv since then.
I love that. That's so funny. You
Yeah.
just kind of always have a song in your head as
Yeah.
you're
And there
going
were
around.
periods of time where it was like the dramatic, like looking out the window and like, pretending I'm in like this like music video, but it's like my own song. Cause an angsty teen, why not?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I love that. I think for me, I always wanted to try theater, and I never did as a kid. I always did sports, but I would go watch plays at school, and then I would obviously watch TV and stuff, and I'm like, it just seems so cool
Yeah.
to play this character. And of course, as a kid, I loved Britney Spears, and I would try to sing along with her and be like, my voice totally matches hers. I sound great. And it did not. It did. I never matched Christina Aguilera, I will say, even though I tried, I could never match her. But yeah, there was always kind of a wanting inside of me. So as an adult taking improv, just regular improv, and then discovering that musical improv was a thing, and how open the community is to like just try it and see what
Totally.
happens.
Totally.
That's what pushed me. And then this whole world of musical improv is just so fun,
Mm-hmm.
freeing. It's
So
hard,
free.
but it's so fun with the
Yeah,
music.
totally.
I love it, and anytime I go to our practices and stuff now, I can feel baby G kicking a little bit, some flutters. I think she's really enjoyed the
Yeah.
practice.
She's totally gonna be a theater kid.
I'm not gonna force it, but if she
She
wants
wants
it,
it. Yeah, she's
I will
kicking when she's at
gladly
practice. I feel like, yeah, something in the music world, theater.
Mhm.
We're gonna just
And
manifest that.
yes, manifest it and yes and it for her. That's what
Yeah.
I wanna do. Alright, so you're taking these improv classes. You moved to San Diego, took the improv classes. And then but you're doing therapy work
Yeah.
then, right? You were doing some, like, counseling sessions, group sessions and such at that point?
Yeah, yeah. So I moved out to California for grad school. And then I didn't necessarily have a plan of staying in California, but I also didn't have a plan of leaving California. So it was really just about what happened. But my program was 2 years. And then amidst that, finding improv and then finding a really good job like after grad school, there was really no reason to leave. And I've really always done improv since I've just about lived in California.
So how did you see these skills as you were taking the improv
Yeah.
classes? How did you see these improv skills start to show up in your professional work and studies too?
Yeah. So, I mean, the basic tenets of improv, like the yes and learning to love the failing. I mean, I think the openness and the willingness to sort of show up as you are without feeling like the pressure to have to change it or adjust or adapt into a perfect mold, right? Because improv isn't that. Improv is not, you're handed a script and this is exactly how it goes. And therapy is that, right? Like you can learn all of the techniques and all of the, treatment modalities and what the research evidence-based practice is, but what research actually also shows is what's more telling about the success or more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, I can't think of the word, but the thing that sort of increases the likelihood of like good therapy outcomes is not what treatment modality people are doing or what, how much like research somebody is influenced by. It's the therapeutic relationship. And so
Mhm.
knowing that, I mean, I don't know, like improv really just like fits into that. And I think especially working with adolescents, that's where I really started like my career. You got to be quick on your feet. Teens,
Mhm.
I love working with teens, but you can't just stick to what a book tells you to do. So, improv is perfectly fits into that. And the job that I had before I moved to LA working with adolescents, I actually even brought musical improv. Um
Oh.
Yeah, especially during the pandemic because, so much changed with the pandemic, so much uncertainty and anxieties. but I did a lot of group therapies, and just remember a few sessions where we improvised songs. I would play backing tracks, and we would sit in a circle and people would take like a line or a lyric and they would share a little bit about their experience. And I still have some of those recordings, but I can't share them because I think just,
Of course. HIPAA.
but
Yeah.
I listen to them all the time because some of the songs are really good. And just like, I'm impressed by their talent at such a young age, having an ability to sort of express themselves in a very creative way, especially in like, as I worked at a day treatment center, especially in like a treatment center where every minute of a treatment center really feels heavy, right? Like they're working on their recovery. We're talking about emotions all day. And so getting the chance to sort of do these like little creative one-off groups, it was interesting to see. I think one client in particular, she was very closed off in groups and didn't really want to like talk about the things. But then when we did this like musical group, her lyrics were like about her experience and like the fear that she had of like how much her family was scared of her, not of her, but like of her eating disorder and things like that. And so just being able to be seeing improv live out in a therapy space, I mean, what greater gift could I ask for as a therapist?
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize you brought in some of those, musical improv or kind of improv skills because I imagined, you never really tell the client like, oh, I'm listening, like I have great listening skills because of improv, but I imagined it like translated. But I love hearing that you encourage them to use art in a way that
Yeah.
like brought about healing and feeling, and that's incredible. Just the
Yeah,
power of arts and theater is so incredible. It's just something
totally.
I'm learning doing this podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so much that I still wanna do with that. I mean, yeah, I think improv has also allowed me to, in my own personal life, that sort of blends with my professional life, is the ideas that I have and the creativity that I feel like I live in such a big creative brain that sometimes I need to slow it down. Like I'm always like thinking about like new and fun ways to do a thing. And so I was always pretty good at group therapy. And I love that space because I would create some sort of like creative way of teaching a lesson. So I did a lot of work with Brene Brown's work with her like shame resilience, and especially in
Yeah,
the worlds of like adolescence and eating disorders. There's a lot of shame about body image, about people's relationship with food. And so being able to sort of read Brene Brown's work and then integrating that into these creative exercises where people are making, visual representations of, for example, Brene Brown talks about our shame shields and the types of things that, you know, shame is a very like disempowering emotion. And working on building your shame resilience, like understanding what your shame shields look like. And so I would literally cut out like shields and we would write things on the front and the back, but it would be like this, it wasn't just like talking about things, right? Like I've learned as a therapist that like getting your like mind and your body, like literally moving your hands and doing something helps. And there's research that actually supports this. So intuitively, I knew it. And so I feel very validated where I'm like, I knew it. But research supports this. Like we learn things and we remember things in our brain when we're actively doing something with it. And improv allows for that, right? Like, even if
yeah.
it's just like, I had clients like strumming on a guitar and we're playing songs together, or even just like being creative and like creating something with their hands. What they're learning in that process stays in their brain better than just talking about it.
That's so beautiful. Oh, I can imagine you are a fantastic facilitator of those group sessions
Thank
as
you.
well.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, and so you recently just started your own business or
Hey.
practice,
Yeah.
Brave Youth Therapy. I think you had a practice before and then kind of gone into the full-time work and then just wanted some more flexibility, right? So
Yeah.
you've now started your own practice again. And did any kind of improv mindsets come through while starting that practice?
Yeah. So I think, okay, so in starting it, I think, you know, one of the things that was like the hardest thing about improv was the fear that we have in our human experience, right? Like the fear of people judging us, the fear of us judging ourselves, like what will people think of
Oh,
me, right?
yeah.
What are people going to think of me? Is this a good idea? And I know like it's funny because you know me in my improv like world now, but when I first started improv, I would hug the curtain. I would hug the side. Like there were times where I'd have shows and I would literally just be standing on the side. I never went out on stage. Like yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was just like so afraid of, is this the right choice to make? Are people
Mhm.
going to understand the connection that my brain is making? And I just had a lack of trusting myself and trusting what I could bring to the table. And so I think in doing improv and like allowing myself to sort of play and care less, like I care about what I do. I'm not saying that I'm just like, ignorant and I don't care about anything. Like I care about what I do, but I care about it in a way of like, is this serving me rather than everything that I do only serves other people? And so through that experience and sort of letting go of like the fear of doing something, and I'm not perfect, I'm like close to perfect, but I'm not perfect.
Cl I'd say you're pretty close.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. But I have wanted to start my own business years before I actually did it. So getting to
Mhm.
a point of feeling ready and just taking that leap, like there was definitely still fear there, but I think improv definitely helped me be like, all right, go, jump off that cliff. You've prepared yourself. You know how to wear your parachute. You know how to pull the cord. Like, you know what you're doing. And you've just got to take that step off that cliff and do it.
Having that yes and mindset really helped me in starting my business. Now I haven't taken the leap of going full time in it, but
Right.
just even being an entrepreneur, quote unquote, I've always wanted to be, but then I would go, "Oh, well, I don't know anything about business. I need to go back to school. I need to take a class and I'm LLC, what's that? How do I get started?" And it gets so overwhelming and my anxiety just goes, "Oh my god," like the first step freaks me out. And honestly, I don't think I start my business obviously, my business is improv focused, but even without that, I don't think I start my business without having these improv skills and really understanding them and using them in my professional life. My business doesn't start without it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like in when I first started improv, I had a lot of teachers and other like players in that like improv world who I really like looked up to and aspired to play with and I started to have opportunities to do that, but I was getting in my own way. And then the pandemic happened, and even before that there was sort of a rupture within like my like improv community and the people that I like did improv with, and it just shifted the dynamic. Some people like left the community and things like that, and I it's one of my regrets of my life. Like I missed my opportunity to really like do more than, you know, than I did. And so I have also had sort of like a hard lesson learned where I can never go back to the times of playing with like certain people who were in the community at the time or opportunities that I had to play on certain teams or things like that. And so knowing and living through the experience of that loss, I think has also sort of fast tracked me into like really understanding that yes and attitude and that like letting go of that, or not even letting go but like celebrating failure, because I think improv also does that. There's some beautiful mistakes that are like made in improv that we love,
Mhm.
and that are just like, oh, like it happened by accident. And I don't mean to call it a mistake, but that wasn't the intended plan, but because it's improv, that's what happened. And it was better than we could have even planned for it. And I just love that attitude now of just, not going in. And I used to with therapy, like running group therapies, I would literally write out a script. I was very well versed in the topics that I'd be teaching like, a lesson on some, and I knew it. If you just asked me about it, I could tell you forwards and backwards, like verbatim from what's in the book and like going off the cuff. And yet I was so worried about not getting it right that I would write a script out. And then when I'm trying to like say exactly what's on my like paper, I was so out of it. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. And then I started to just, you know what? Throw it away. Like, I'm not even going to write it. I know what the lesson is. I know how to talk about it. And it was when I started doing that that I started getting like better feedback, and people wanted to be in my groups. And, because I did family groups and families coming after and talking to me and like, thank you so much for keeping my kid engaged. And it was just so reinforcing to also be like, trust yourself, like trust. And I think that for me, I think that's one of the biggest lessons in improv is trusting myself, trusting my brain. Cause I think people say, and I'm sure you've gotten this a lot, where people are like, how do you do musical improv? It's so hard. And I'm like, when you don't trust yourself, your brain will figure it out. I think you're so good at rhyming. And I'm so impressed at like,
Sometimes.
but I just, when I start to let go of feeling like I
Mm,
have to get it right or I have to plan ahead of time, my brain is like, we got this. Like, we know. But sometimes I feel like the fear cuts off those pathways of knowing and just trusting.
I feel that script piece so much too. I see that a lot in my Toastmasters groups and people who, I work with and stuff. They're like, I need a script. I need a script to stick to. And oftentimes when we stick to the script, it's good, it's organized, it stays on time. So that's a key piece. But you become more rigid a lot of times.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't always let whatever's coming up in the moment stay
Mhm.
coming up. You might
Mhm.
not notice it, you might move past it because you're like, "I gotta stick to the script." And so, yeah, having these skills, I think just openly, it helps with communication, it helps with
Yes.
listening. And
Absolutely.
again, I'm not trying to, like, make this I know therapy is so much work. I know there's so many methods and different ways of and theories and different things that you use to facilitate healing amongst your clients. So this is just a piece of it that can
Totally.
help.
Absolutely. And I think, to that point though, I think it's about learning to have a blend of them, right? So one of the main
Yeah.
like treatment modalities that I use in my practice is called dialectical behavioral therapy. And dialectics talks about the synthesis of two things that seem like opposites can both coexist, right? So like in a way where the improv part of it happens, but it's synthesized with, structure and having a treatment modality
Yeah.
that I fall back on. But when we get caught up in one side of it that I'm like completely improvising everything, I'm sure that feels very unsafe for clients who just don't feel like their therapist has a plan or like no, like it's just like we'll just figure out whatever we're doing. And so it's striking a balance between being able to improvise. And I've had times where I'm structured. I'm like, okay, we're planning to talk about this thing, but then something in life happens and I'll have a client come and
Mhm.
say, I really actually want to process about this thing that just happened to me. And how invalidating would that be if I were like, well, no, we can't talk about it because last week we were talking about this thing and we have to talk about this thing today. I
Right.
probably wouldn't be a good therapist if I was just like, you
No,
gotta
yeah,
stick to
it's very
structure.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Selma, something I've always wondered, and feel free to share whatever you
Sure.
feel comfortable sharing, but I can't imagine being a therapist and doing what you do because you hear so many terrible things. I mean, hard things that people are going through. And for me, I tend to take on the weight of other people's problems. I don't know if that's an empath or whatever, but like I do feel it when people are struggling. I feel it too. And so, how do you keep from burning out
Yeah.
and not taking on the weight of your clients' issues when doing a full-time job of this?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the classic answer is like self-care, right? And people are just like, okay, but what does that mean? So yes, I think part of it is, what am I doing to fulfill my life in other ways? Being a therapist is very fulfilling for me. And I've had clients sort of be like, "Oh, I don't want to burden you." I'm like, "I've literally chosen this career path for a reason." And sometimes when I've
Yeah.
had clients like sort of talk about their guilt of, "Oh, I don't want to bother you," or something like that, I don't want to just shut that down. Like I do talk about what that means. And I'm very honest with them about, me being in this space with you is also self-serving. Sure, I'm here for you, and I'm here to serve you as my client, but I also want you to understand that like me being in this position and having the privilege of being in this position as a therapist being there for you is an honor for me. I appreciate being in that position. So why a person has chosen the path as a therapist, I think matters. And also being mindful of if I'm only there to self-serve, I'm like, I only want to feel good about myself, that could be a problem. So I'm aware, I think it's multifaceted. I think the other thing is confidence in your work and confidence in what is your responsibility as a therapist and what is not. And I think earlier
Mm,
on in my career, there were a lot of things that I took on as my responsibility. It is not my job to make people feel better, which sounds kind of counterintuitive as a therapist, right? Like
right.
my analogy as like a therapist is if we work together, you are inviting me in as a passenger in this part of your journey in your life. I never want to take the wheel from you. That's not my job. It is not my like job to take over the life that you choose to live. I'm here to maybe give you some guidance, maybe give you the directions, tell you, oh, you should turn right here, or suggest that you should turn right here or take a U turn. Let's go back. But I am merely a passenger in their life. And so I really try to be mindful of that. And then the other analogy I really like to use, like I try to be a metaphorical mirror to my clients. Like you reflect the goals that you have. And I want to try to reflect that back to you. So when you say, oh, like I really want to work on like my boundaries. And then you come and you talk to me about this like relationship issue. And I see that lack of boundary being held. I'm going to reflect that back to you. I'm going to say, hey, I remember we talked about these goals and I'm curious how that's sort of showing up now. Do you feel like you're holding yourself accountable to what you said you wanted to do? And how can I help you with that? Or maybe I don't help you with that. Maybe I just make that reflection. But to answer, sorry, this is very long-winded in answering my question, but I
Oh,
think
keep going.
the
It's all
number
good.
one thing I think for me that I have learned is that line between like what is my responsibility and what is not.
Yeah.
And there are ethical and legal things as a therapist that you have to do, right? Like being a mandated reporter, communicating that, making sure your clients are staying safe, asking the right questions, right? So I don't know if this is a trigger warning or not, but I work with clients who have struggled with like suicidal ideations or self-harm
Mhm.
behaviors or just like at-risk behaviors. And being afraid to talk about it as a therapist is detrimental to
Mhm.
to people's well-being, to building safety. I need to be comfortable enough to talk about those things and be direct with my clients about it. So I feel like having the confidence in my skills and the confidence in what I know is my responsibility and also what is not my responsibility, I think has helped me have better boundaries and not burn out so that I can let go of, it's not my job to make you take your medications. It's not my job to make you feel
Mhm.
better. I can give you suggestions, I can give guidance, I can hold space for you. I feel comfortable taking the weight of like emotional distress. Like I've done it my whole life. Like I can handle that stuff. But when I start to if I start to shift into I feel guilty because I didn't make this person feel better, I've got to check myself on that because that's not my job.
Well, and I imagine and assume that improv is a nice break from that
Yeah,
reality in world, except maybe when you get put into therapy scenes
I
or
love it.
something.
I love it. I remember there was a show we had where I think it was maybe not with like singing in the rage, but another like improv show where I was like, all right, we're just gonna do a group therapy session with the whole audience. And I love like playing on that. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine it's a nice creative outlet, a break from that world as well, all the heaviness of the world and
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of having fun, being silly. I think our last musical improv show that we had, you became an alien and then you
Oh,
ate
yeah.
somebody else and then birthed them into becoming an alien, right? So
Yeah.
having that imagination is very fun.
Absolutely, allowing that. And as you were saying that, it also reminds me of, like, another thing is boundaries.
Mhm.
You're right. I mean, I think sometimes I don't understand the weight of what being a therapist is because 'cause I've just done it for so long, but when people are like, "Oh my gosh,
Mm.
how do you do that? You're carrying so much." And I think something that I've maybe learned to, like, intuitively do is when I have had a hard day, I've heard some, like, really tough stuff from a client, and it's just I'm not saying that I'm, like, not moved by those things, right? I am impacted by it.
Yeah.
But if I have, like, a friend calling or I need to have, like, a conversation or whatever, like, sort of makes me I need to decompress, like, it's honoring those boundaries as well. So there are times where, like, I might need to cancel a plan or I might need to just sort of be by myself, blast some music and just dance around or cuddle my cat or,
Mhm.
just or reach out to a friend and hang out with them without having to talk about the things that I've just learned from
Right.
my client. So I think another big component of the like not getting burnt out is knowing those boundaries and knowing those limits and not pushing myself past that.
It's so important. And honoring what you're feeling too and not being like, "No, I can't do that right now." Not no butting yourself. Really yes
Totally.
anding those
Absolutely.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I'll do a bunch of times, like, I'm like, "No, I can't go for a walk right now. I've got all this whole list of tasks I've gotta take care of," or, "No, I don't have any time." Time is a big thing for me. So, "No, I don't have any time."
Yeah.
And so, chill out, let's go for a walk. I'll probably be more productive and energized after I take the
Yeah.
walk or breathe or do
Yes.
whatever. So
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. Like knowing what also re-energizes you, I think sometimes
mhm.
I don't know, just like part of the human experience is that like we forget what we need to sort of reset. I don't know, just like this is I don't know why this is like the thing that came to mind, but like household appliances can't just like your washing machine, right? Can't just do like 50 loads back to back. Sometimes it needs to like literally cool down before it's ready. Like it can function, it can do the thing that it needs to do, but it just might need a break. Like we are
Yeah.
washing machines.
I mean, the TV gets hot if you have it on for too long. My
Yeah.
phone gets hot if
Yeah,
I
get over
play
it.
on
And
it for
like your
too
phone is
long.
just like, we're just gonna take a break. We're gonna stop charging for a minute because we're too hot. Like we
Uh-huh.
humans are that.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that. Kind of off topic, silly question here, but I have other therapist friends who I've asked this to. There's a show on Apple TV with Jason Segel in it called Shrinking. Have you seen
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, and I personally I watched it, I'm like, "This is so silly. He's not handling it how he should as a therapist, blah, blah, blah," and then I've had therapist friends who have been like, "Oh, I loved it. Like, it's what I wanted to do, but I can't do as a therapist," kind of thing, and I've only seen 2 episodes. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
watched it or
I
not.
I didn't love it actually.
Yeah, I didn't either, but
Yeah, I
to
felt like
each their own.
I felt like it was too, like, boundary crossing with, like, a
Mhm.
client and just too inappropriate. You know, I I really I honor the position that I have of being who I am in people's lives, and I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, right? People are coming to you in dark times. They're
Mhm.
struggling, they need that help, and the choices that I make and how I support them and how I think because it is it to some degree, it's an opinion, right? Like, I am bringing myself into the work that I do too, and I have
Yeah.
to be very cautious and about what help looks like for a client, and so building a relationship where one of the things that I tell my clients from the beginning is my job is to work myself out of my job. I want to
Mhm.
help you not need me, not need therapy. And I don't mean to undermine like people who are like in therapy for like years. I was in therapy for years, right? Like it's that's not my intention, but I really do still believe in like building the skills, building the ability to not need a therapist. There is a difference between wanting a therapist and, like, wanting that safe space to talk to somebody about things and,
Mhm.
without judgment. That I think that's different, but, like, that sense of, "I can't function without you," I don't
Mhm.
I don't believe in that, and I don't believe that's healthy. I want people to be empowered and confident and knowing when they need help, knowing when they need to reach out and say, "Hey, I just need to process through this. I need a listening ear." Great, beautiful, I love it. But, yeah, I didn't love that show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I only watched 2 episodes and I'm like, I can't keep going in it. So maybe it got better. I don't know. But I always think of that one because it was kind of therapist focused
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Selma, I want to take a quick break
Yeah,
and then I want to jump into more of your focus areas around eating
sure.
disorders just because I do have a connection there. So
Yeah,
let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back talking with Salma Solomon all about improv and therapy and how those actually cross and translate and help each other. sometimes you would think it wouldn't, or, therapy is very serious and as it should be, but the skills of improv help to facilitate those therapy sessions and have a better therapist partner with you when you need that help. And that's so important too. And before this, when we were on break, we got to see Sophia the cat. She's a little camera shy, so maybe she'll come back too. We'll see. Selma, I did want to talk about your focus areas. I know you help people with all kinds of issues and such, but I remember chatting with you on our long carpool trip to Camp West last year about eating disorders and just having a healthy relationship with food. And I'll tell you my story. When I was in college, I was studying exercise science, which is very, I'd say, rigid in the sense that it's all about sports performance. And so it's how to be a better athlete and how to have the optimal training and performance. And eating healthy is very important. Having a healthy body weight is very important. Meeting all those like optimal numbers. And so I got really into that, and I wanted to lose a lot of body fat percentage. I wanted to be in the optimal ranges. And I got really into the nutrition of it and very rigid. So I went and saw a dietitian, and one of the questions she asked me was like, if you're at a party with friends, you're hanging out, and all they have to eat is pizza, and you're hungry, you're starving, would you eat the pizza? No, because pizza's bad for you. It has too many calories, it's a lot of fat, it's got a lot of cheese on it. No, I wouldn't eat it. I'd probably bring my own snack. I probably would have been prepared and brought my own snack anyway. And she said, okay, I want to encourage you. I'm going to refer you to a therapist to help you with this kind of disordered eating. So it's not eating disorder, but there's some red flags in your relationship with food. And so I really recommend and refer that you see him. And that was my first time in therapy in college. And I think I did around 10 sessions with this therapist. And I have to tell you, it's changed me. It saved me. It's given me a whole new outlook on food that, my family, the women in my family are very food conscious, food focused. Everyone was on a diet when I was younger. So just hearing that you help people with that, and I know eating disorders is a whole nother thing than disordered eating, but it all matters, and food affects us so much more than we think. And I was also thinking about this too, just me being a pregnant lady, I've gained 35 pounds plus. I've seen numbers on the scale now that I've never seen before, and I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I don't think I come to this place where I'm like, I'm healthy, baby's growing. I don't think I'm there if I don't do that therapy and that inner work. And so I'm so glad that the dietitian referred me. I'm glad I said yes to doing it. It was hard. We really uncovered a lot of things, a lot of it related to my volleyball playing, because you wear spandex shorts.
Yeah.
And now they have the option to wear leggings, which I would have totally taken that option. But, seeing everyone else in their shorts, and I would do a lot of comparisons. My body doesn't look like their bodies. Why doesn't I have cellulite? Why, And yes, I'm just so grateful for the therapy work I had and that. And I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know you already did this, but like not to undermine disordered eating versus like an eating disorder. I think especially in this country that we live in, and I'm sure like around the world too, but I can only speak to like our culture, like women and body image and how we're inundated by what media shows us and just algorithms on social media that sort of push certain messages, and it's sad. We don't have an opportunity to learn to love ourselves as we are, accept bodies at all shapes and sizes, accept, especially for women, accept normal women bodies. There's sort of, and even just there's so many industries that show what the perfect woman body is and never show what a healthy woman body is or what a healthy relationship with food looks like, or relationship with
Ugh.
our body image. There's so much disordered relationships. So how are we supposed to learn what healthy is and, honoring and respecting who we are as individuals?
Yeah, and also recognizing that the number on the scale is a number, right? Like,
Totally.
it it does not give any bearing to who you are as a person and
Mhm.
how you interact and show up for the world, like, it is just a number.
Yeah, there's
And
so
it's
much worth tied to, like, numbers,
yes.
and there's a lack of education too in terms of what that number means. Like, for example, a simple fact is muscle weighs heavier than fat. So sometimes
Yeah.
people, even in their, like, wanting to change their fat to muscle ratio, if they don't know muscle weighs heavier and they're seeing the number go up, like, they're just automatically thinking that they're just, like, gaining. But there's so many people who have, like, literally gained weight from eating healthy and exercising, and but yet, like, if they were to measure themselves, they were actually, like, slimming down. It's just there's such misinformation out there that, like, the number
Yeah.
on the scale means more than what's actually happening inside of your body.
Yeah, and I also a big thing that I was doing too is if I did eat the pizza at a friend's house or something, like I ate quote unquote "bad food," I would have to work out a ton
Compensate, yeah,
afterward.
that compensatory behavior, yeah. I've had so many clients, especially when I was working with, like, adolescents who had health classes who were teaching misinformation. It's not even just, like, we're making up our own information as adolescents and we're just thinking, we're being influenced, like, people are literally sitting in a health class being taught. I had a clients this was years ago, but I had clients who were taught how to calorie count, who were taught to keep track of
Mhm.
every
Yeah.
macro and, all of these things, and for what? Like, what 14-year-old needs to know that?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, in my college classes, those were projects. We had to
Yeah.
track our food for 7 days and then input it in, and you'd see all your, like, vitamin counts and your
Right, and there was an
macros.
evaluation about it too of what was good or bad for you. Yeah. And I think the bigger problem too is that in our, like, medical system, like, the BMI scale
Mhm.
is not inclusive at all. It
No,
does not
absolutely
account
not.
for people who are Black, who are Asian. It doesn't it's literally geared towards, like, if I don't quote me on this, but I for the last thing I remember learning was that, like, the BMI was based off of, like, white men. I'm not a
Mm.
white
Yeah.
man. Like,
Mhm.
my 14-year-old Black client is not a white man.
Mhm.
And also just, like, family history and genetics matters.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine it's hard to hear all of those, like, people struggling with the food, but it really does help to talk about it, and so,
Absolutely.
you know, when I found out that I was having a girl, obviously, a boy or girl, like, I wanna be a good model mom for them, but when I found out I was having a girl, it, like, almost hit me, like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Like, I gotta
I've been
be.
working on breaking the cycle, but we're really breaking the cycle of
Mhm.
poor body image, poor
Yeah,
self-worth, tied to food, tied to weight. We're breaking all of that. I mean, I've read stuff, I'm curious, please add more, but I know, like, commenting on how healthy she looks and not her appearance is good. Talking about myself in a positive way, so if I see a picture of myself not going, "Oh, I look terrible," or "I look fat," I'd never use the F word, the fat word anyway, but never referring to myself as that
totally.
either.
Yeah,
I'm not calling foods good or bad, so, obviously, we can have ice cream here and there, we can have treats, they're treats, but, like, not, "Oh, well, that's bad for you, that's good for you,"
totally.
kinda thing.
Yeah.
Anything else that I can do as a
Yeah,
model mom to help
yeah.
break the cycle, and also for everyone listening too, anything
Totally.
else?
The reality is, and here's the unfortunate thing that's just a thing we need to accept, is we live in a world where thin bodies are praised and
Mhm,
people who are in bigger bodies are ignored, are, there's an association of disgust or, like, less than. And so the unfortunate reality, whether I like it to be true or not, or whether I want to, like, perpetuate it or not, it happens. Like, and I've had so many clients who have literally had the experience of, I started to get noticed. My friends liked me more. People wanted to hang out with me more when I lost weight. So when they were entrenched in their eating disorder, while they intuitively knew this isn't healthy for me, I am obsessed about food, I'm counting every calorie, there is a kernel of truth in that, like, people are liking them more because of their weight loss. And so the thing that I would suggest too is normalizing that part of the human experience that we have and that we will experience every single day. So like, your daughter may experience comparisons. She may experience feeling left out, and there's a difference between believing that your self-worth is tied to that and knowing that society does that.
Well, and I do think the younger generations, and I'm generalizing, total generalization here, but there has been more body acceptance.
Yes,
With I think social media and well, social media I think plays a part in helping and also hurting too. But
absolutely.
there's been more of a movement of just all bodies are important and
Yeah,
every shape and size. Obviously, there's more work to do, but we're moving in a good direction. But also, of course, more work to be done
absolutely.
there.
Totally. And I think to your point, like, I think it's going to be about balance. It's not going to just be about like only focusing on like body positivity and I love my body as it is, because again, I can't remember the quote like verbatim, but we cannot have light without darkness. So, in order for us to have confidence and to believe in our confidence, we also do need to honor and respect the insecurities that we may carry. We're not just going to only have confidence and never have insecurities. We live in a world where we compare, right? There's a healthy amount of comparing, right? I need to know if I'm doing a good job about something by comparing what other people are doing, right? I need to compare what my bank account looks like this week versus last week to know if I should spend
Mhm.
more, right? So there's sort of a world of finding balance between like where I am hyper focused and evaluating my self-worth on what my body looks like versus honoring like, oh, I don't like this part of my body, but I'm still going to wear a bathing suit and I'm still going to go hang out with my friends and I'm going to enjoy my time and I'm going to eat that pizza and I'm going to enjoy and, indulge in what makes me feel good, and also without indulging to the extent that like I'm also unhealthy about it, right? So there is a balance in it. So I think my biggest advice in that is, yes, I love the push for body positivity. I would also encourage you to even look at body neutrality, because body positivity also has like an undertone of there's worth in my body, like that, like my self-worth is tied to my body even if it's in a good way, right? So I would even think about body neutrality, that I have a body, like, I function in my body. I can walk, I can run, I can play, I can see things, I can smell, right? Versus, oh, I love my arms and the way that they look. And I love this like fat that, like it's just, it doesn't have to be that either.
I love that body neutrality too. Yeah, just like I can do the things that I like to do because my body is strong, because it's
Totally.
healthy, because I've been training and I do the training because I want to, not because I have to. I
Yeah.
brings me joy, it lights me up, and never like forcing it to a point where it's, oh, I gotta go work out. It's no, I get to work
Totally.
out. This is
Exactly, exactly, and I
slightly
feel
restrained.
empowered. Yeah, and I feel empowered in my body. I feel good about the strength that I have, like, when people want to, like, lift weights and they wanna feel stronger and more capable, as an eating disorder therapist, I don't shy away from that. I'm like, "Beautiful, let's honor that. Let's go get to, like, being able to lift 100 pounds. Let's celebrate that." But when you're doing that at the risk of your health and at the risk of your mental well-being, and you're doing compensatory behaviors, that's a problem. So I don't shy away from like people who come to me who want to lose weight, especially I have clients who like struggle with like binge eating, right? And who are in bigger bodies. I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm very aware of where my line is, but I do feel comfortable talking about, like, I am in support of you like wanting to lose weight, but let's make sure that we understand what weight loss looks like, right? We're not going to drop 50 pounds in a month. And if a medication is guaranteeing that, or this particular diet is guaranteeing that, is that sustainable? Probably not. Right. I talk about building a healthy lifestyle, a sustainable lifestyle. What does that look like? And if that feels good for you and it's in line with your values. And that goes back to what I was saying before. I am a passenger in their journey. It's not my job to tell them that like they shouldn't lose weight just because they have disordered eating. That's not my job, right? They need to feel good about the choices that they're making, the life that they're living, the body that they live in. I don't live in their body. So I got to be careful of putting my opinions on. And of course there's a line, right? Because then there gets to like when it's like completely unhealthy. When somebody has like anorexia and they're like, "Oh, I want to lose weight." I'm not like, "Yeah, no problem." That's a problem.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's hard. Like you said, it's a balance. You're dealing with some really hard issues, some habits and things that have just been buried in people, or taught.
Yeah.
I I think back to just family dynamics, I'm sure plays a huge role in it.
100.
One of the last things that my grandma said to me, she was, I think, starting to have dementia, but she was still like half there.
Yeah.
But I was cooking, and this is probably what, 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. I'm cooking for Thanksgiving. I'm next to my husband. We're at the stove. I'm in sweatpants and like an oversized t-shirt. And she comes over and she pinches my arm and she says, "Ooh, getting a little chunky, aren't you?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Thanks, T." We called my grandma T. I'm like, "Thanks, T. Really appreciate that." And then I told my cousins, I'm like, "Oh yeah, T said I was getting chunky." And they're like, "Oh, welcome to the club. She's told all of us that." And it's, and I don't think that was
Yeah.
the last thing she said,
But
but
that
it's
sounds like it stuck with you. Yeah.
yeah, it did stick with me, and I laughed it off, and I use humor a lot to diffuse things, of course, but, it did stick with me in the sense of this is an example of just the commentary that's been in the women of my family for
Yeah.
generations,
Yeah.
and again, that's just like, we're cutting that off, we're breaking that cycle, at
Yeah.
least what I can control,
Yeah.
and consciously and subconsciously what I can do to help be a better role model there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that example too, because that definitely comes up a lot in like the work that I do with wanting to break the cycle of family dynamics, like families making comments. And it's finding that balance between, not only accepting it and laughing it off. And, because there's a part of us that is bothered by that that's the thing that somebody notices about me rather than being like, oh, even like literally what you said was like you were over like the stove cooking. And so rather than her coming over and being like, thanks so much for helping, or, honoring like what you're doing to help with a Thanksgiving dinner, it was like, I'm walking by and I'm going to notice like your arms and I'm going to, and part of like empowerment for me is not only learning when to laugh it off, but also learning when not to laugh it off and like feeling empowered to say something and, not getting into a whole argument with our family because sometimes like family dynamics are like just a whole nother like therapy in and
Yeah.
of itself. But I do encourage people to, find times and spaces and opportunities to say something back and say, hey, like, I'm worth more than just my arms, or changing the subject or whatever feels good for them in the moment. But it's not just about accept because I think that's a big thing. Like I think what I struggle with when I'm like, no, say something is I've had clients who are just like, that's just what my family does. That's just what it is. And I'm like, but does it have to be? Like it doesn't. I don't think it always does have to be. That's the comment that's made. Yes, we can't control what other people do, but we can influence, right? We can show a boundary of saying, I don't like that.
Or, "Hey, I've noticed that you always talk about foods that are good or bad, and you label foods as good or bad. Do you notice that you do that?" kinda thing, and just
Totally.
having and I say I've never said that question out loud even though I've wanted to,
Yeah.
so
Well, because it opens a door for a conversation that like could go really well and also could not.
it's very vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
a vulnerable position, and as an adult, I'm trying to put myself more in those, but
Yeah.
the laughing it off has always been my kinda
It's
go-to.
easy. Yeah, it's easy. And that's a thing. I think diffusing a situation in the moment might be the best answer. And I think I'm not a parent, but observing, I've had a lot of friends, like parents. My sister just had a baby. I think that you're going to find a new chapter in your life of caring for and defending this little person, and
Mhm.
teaching her what standing up for yourself. And so even if like you're afraid to do it for yourself, I really believe that you're going to grow into a like confidence of like, fuck it. Like, oh, I don't know if I can curse it. I'm like, who cares?
Cares.
I can't I can't do it for myself. Fine. Like I'll put me aside, but I care enough to do it for this person who's innocent, who like doesn't even have words and language. So somebody coming up to her and be like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Look at her chunky legs. Like even in that moment, right? Stopping it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. I'm sighing because there's more work to be done, and that's
Yeah.
good. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So breaking the cycle and then also creating a new
Yes.
healthy cycle of
Yes.
balance and
Yes.
boundaries and speaking up for yourself, advocating for yourself.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one too, because I think a lot of times there's sort of this, I don't want to call it like a mistake, but maybe like a misconception that like when we are trying to like change behaviors, people often focus so much on stopping the thing that we don't want to do anymore, but
Mm,
don't really spend enough time doing the thing that they want to do more of. We tend to focus on like, no, 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 don't. And going back to sort of like why we're here, like the yes and approach, right? And like when research has sort of looked at human behavior, the thing that's a greater influence of change is not when you tell somebody to stop doing something, but actually when you tell somebody to do something different. You naturally get less of the behavior you don't want and more of the behavior you want by attending to what you want to see more of. So I love that you brought that up because I think that's such an important point of, don't just focus on don't do this, don't say that, don't say these things, I got to stop this thing, stop that. Okay, but what can I fill my brain up with and like my space up? What can these conversations be more about instead of what can't they be about? Do you know what I mean?
absolutely. I love that. Yeah. More yes and less
Yeah.
no, no, no. And again, and kind of the healthiness comes through
Mhm.
as you're doing the things that you want to do more, and then,
Yeah.
the behaviors you're trying to stop.
Yeah, if you think about it too, if you're filling your brain up and your like space up with the things that you want to do, you naturally create less space for the things that you don't want anyway. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
as we work extra hard on things that like we might not need to, and it's exhausting.
it's so true. And I work in public health and, worksite wellness, employee wellness, and so, I mean, all of this comes up too and just changing behaviors, and there's a lot of like, in my line of work, we look at aggregate claims, health insurance claims, and we see that
Mhm.
diabetes is high, blood pressure
Mhm.
is high, cancer is high, heart disease. I mean, all of these things that raise the health insurance rates because the claims are so high, and then, everyone gets upset, and the employer is upset, and the employees are upset because the insurance premiums are higher. So, and then it comes back to me, and it's like, well, what programs can we do to help
Right.
people get healthier? And it's like,
Right.
yes, there's so many things, but there's a lot of individual things, and then there's some group dynamics. At the end of the day, it comes down to, does the person feel safe enough to participate in this program? Do they feel capable enough, confident enough? Self-efficacy is a big thing too.
Yeah.
And it can be hard in my job just to see some of that because you wanna help so many
Totally.
people get healthy,
Totally.
but also sometimes I feel like we go in the wrong directions. Like, "Here's a walking challenge, everyone do it." It's, well,
Yeah.
to do a walking challenge.
Yeah, I love that example too, because even, especially like in that corporate world where like companies are like, okay, we're going to give everybody a free Fitbit or whatever and get
Yeah.
healthy and things like that. Like, I remember when I was working at like in college mental health, like there was even the simple like access to healthy foods, right? Look at what we like the society that we live in. What is cheaper and more affordable versus what people have less access to and can't afford? And so it's cheaper and you can feed your family when you go to McDonald's and you know what I mean? Or you go to a fast food restaurant and, but to go grocery shopping and get like healthy, well-rounded vegetables and, fruits, it's costly. And so even like that program, to your point is just people might not even have access. People might live in neighborhoods where it's not safe to go outside and walk. I mean, we live in LA, right? Like it's not safe to go outside and walk. Just recently I had a client talk about getting attacked by an unhoused person, and not every apartment building has like a gym in it. It's just it's
Right.
it's theoretically nice to say like, oh, here's this free Fitbit, go do these things, but there are systemic problems that exist that we don't do enough. Not you and I, because I know we're badass women, but like,
Right.
these bigger corporations or companies don't focus enough on.
We're breaking cycles, we're having balance, we're badass women, right?
Oh,
We're doing the inner work, but no, we're always a work in progress,
Yeah.
and at least for me, I've chosen to focus on this inner work, but I understand either a safety thing, sometimes people don't even realize, like, change can happen
Yeah.
like that. I mean, there's so many different ways of why someone chooses
Totally.
to stay on the path that they're on,
Yeah.
and it
Totally.
really is up to them when they decide to make the change,
Totally.
and obviously putting healthy options in place can help bring about that change, but it does come from the individual to decide
Yeah.
to make the change.
I think as you say that too, it makes me think about too the like sometimes like the solutions tend to be like one size fits all, that like this is the answer for everybody, and like generalizing it when it might not really be the answer. Like, like a single mom who is taking care of like her elderly parent and three kids, and what she might need help with is like childcare or a nurse to help so that she
Mhm.
has the ability to do other things. And just, I don't know, it's just, there's certain things that it's just, again, I'm going back to this example because that's just in my mind. Here's a free Fitbit, go walking. It's like, I can't, I literally cannot. I don't have the time to do it. I don't have the access to do it.
Or you can get $200 for doing all these health activities throughout the year. Why would you not want to? I don't understand. And it's
Well,
like,
and yeah, yeah. The judgment of it, of you're doing something wrong if you're like, because I know at my last job, there were like these health incentives of going to like making these certain doctor's appointments and getting these like blood tests and like health checkups. And if you're like healthy, then I don't know, I put that in quotes. If you're healthy, then, you get this like money back. And it's like even something as simple as that. I understand that it sounds simple, but like taking time off to go, let's say, especially in LA, not everybody has a car. People are taking public transportation, right? Like, accessibility of even just like taking time to go to the doctor's office to do this thing. And then what are they met with of just, oh, why didn't you do it? It's so easy. You just have to like make this appointment. It's like, it's not that easy. Like yeah.
and usually there's a cycle of people putting off going to the doctors. And then when they do go to the doctor, there's more problems,
Yep.
issues because they haven't gone in so long. And
Yeah.
so then it creates a fear. Oh, every time I go to the doctor, there's
Something
something
bad.
wrong with
Yep.
me. And it costs me
Yeah.
more. And I,
Yeah.
have to take this medicine now and all
Yeah.
this. It's stressful. And so I'm just going to avoid go.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
obviously we want people to go to the doctors, but yeah, there's a fear, there's a safety.
Totally.
The world is very complicated and we
It
are
really
trying.
is. Yeah.
And Selma, you are helping
Thank
people
you. I
navigate
try. I
it.
try.
Thank you for those. I wasn't trying to do a mini therapy session or anything, but
Now I love it.
said was really helpful. And I imagine, I don't know if you get this a lot with friends or people who find out you're a therapist, but they're like, oh, I work with a therapist and they did this and I didn't like that. Or, I've been talking to my therapist about this. So I don't know, do you get a lot of people's like backstories sometimes?
I don't know if it's just because I'm a therapist, but I think I definitely welcome I don't know, I feel like I'm like good at asking questions and like follow-up questions and getting to know people and things like that, I feel like I definitely open a world of inviting more personal conversations. And I have to be careful with that because sometimes like I get caught up in this like side conversation where somebody's like unleashing all of their like relationship trauma. And I'm like, I'm just here to like do some karaoke. Like I'm not.
Here's your friend, not as a
Yeah.
therapist right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I appreciate when people respect that boundary too. What I used to get years ago, but it hasn't been happening. Maybe it's because I'm older, but I used to get people being like, oh my God, like you study psychology, you're a therapist, analyze me. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what? From just saying, hello, what's your name? Like, I'm like, how do okay. But
Yeah, that's
I
tough.
appreciate when people like sort of honor. I don't mind helping. I mean, I've built this profession, I built this career, and I've gone into this profession for a reason. So I like doing that, but I don't want to feel expected to do it. You know,
Yeah.
and I want
Yeah,
to be taken care of too. I want somebody to ask me how I'm doing. I want somebody to validate me without me having to teach them how
exactly.
to do it.
Well, helping people navigate the world and also yourself, where do you see both your therapy journey and your improv journey headed?
Yeah, so I actually see like more collaboration between those worlds. So I just started my business. It's been a few months. And, with my sister having a baby and just
Oh,
traveling back east more, I haven't really had the time to dedicate to fully diving into my private practice. But the next steps, and I'm hoping in like mid-July, end of July, I'm actually planning to do some like improv therapy groups. Yeah. So those worlds are truly going to combine and, yeah, integrate in that. So building my private practice more, just really diving into that, doing more. I have a lot of like creative ideas that I want to do in the therapy world that definitely take some like creative outlook and yes anding sort of attitude to do them. I really want to start like a body image and movement group. And so
yes.
where we're sort of doing movement together, but we're also, so it's like you're going to a workout class, but then you're having that opportunity to talk about like your body image in the moment, or, what's influencing like your ability to push yourself or not push, like what's inhibiting, because there's probably going to be mirrors in this like room that we're doing this, because it'll be in person.
Hmm.
And so being able to have that exposure, but also talk about it. Because how many times have we gone to the gym and we're staring at ourselves and like we're not talking to, you know what I mean? And so I want to be able to bridge that gap of creating safe spaces where people can like go do a workout, get in their bodies, wear the shorts that they want to wear, and like, whatever that sort of looks like, challenging themselves to do it in a safe space, and then be able to maybe go to their local gyms or go to a park wearing their leggings without an oversized t-shirt or whatever that is. So that's my goal. Continuing
Oh,
to
I
build
love
this
it.
and then bring more of that improv into like the work that I do.
I have so many ideas just to share with you. I know in the LA area, there's someone who does Zenprov, who I definitely want to have on as a guest, but it's kind of improv and mindfulness based. I
Yeah,
think he's a psychologist, I want to say.
beautiful.
Um, I've also had a guest on that has done ecstatic dance. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's kind of what you're talking about of kind of free flow dance.
Mm,
At least when I did it, it was in a room without mirrors, but you can't control that sometimes. But he had a whole playlist, like an hour long playlist that kind of built up. And the idea was there's no steps, there's no choreo. You move how your body wants to move to the music, and there's no judgment in the room. Everyone's doing their own thing.
yeah.
It was really a beautiful experience. It sounds like
That's
something
awesome.
similar to that, and then you could
Yeah.
debrief at the end
Yes.
to be like, how did it feel to let go of that judgment and realize no one else was judging
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah. I
too?
think, yeah. And I think in my experience with group therapy, I think a space to debrief and to talk about it is
Mhm.
important. And so, yeah, I love what you're describing. And I love that that exists in LA, and I hope to add to it.
Yeah, that's the thing with applied improv is the debrief. Like when we take improv classes, it's you get notes on like how the scene could feel easier and more humorous, or just kind of really bringing out that joy of your characters. In applied improv, really translating it to your work or career or life, that's when
Totally.
you have the debrief. And it's
Totally.
just simple questions of like, what
Yeah.
did you notice came up here? How were you
Yeah.
feeling in that moment?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah.
Let's talk about why you
I
felt
love,
nervous to say a very neutral statement kind of
yeah.
thing.
I remember you reminded me. Can I share a quick story?
Absolutely. Yes,
I
and.
remember when I first started musical improv, I was going through a breakup, and the first exercise that we did this in our audition, but we had to sing a solo song about ourselves to
Oh
introduce
yeah.
ourselves. So this was in like my like level 1 like musical improv class.
Oh
And
wow. That's intense.
I yeah, and it was, I think this was it's like such a memory for me, in that it was so like healing and powerful to like have that opportunity. And again, I've said before, like I think in songs. I was like perfect. But I did not realize how, like, I was not planning to be like, hey, my name's Selma, and I just went through a breakup and here's my story. I was not planning to go there, but like the vulnerability of like singing, and also the vulnerability of just all eyes on you. So I remember there was a chair on the stage, because it was like it was in a classroom, whatever, on the stage. And I just remember starting to circle like the chair, and I just started bawling. And like the pianist like stopped, and the teacher was just like, oh, you don't have to go. And I just remember that moment being like, keep playing, I got this. And
Oh
like
my
through the
gosh.
tears, I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I sang about, but I just was like, no, like I'm going to work through this. Like I'm here to play and have fun. And sure, authentically, what's coming up is this like sadness, but that's just who I am in this moment. And I can honor that. And I just remember feeling really empowered to do that. And again, I don't remember what I sang about, but I had a few people come up to me after and they were like, thank you so much for keep going. Thank you. Like, I
Mm,
feel really embarrassed. Like, I sang some silly stuff. Like, I talked about like my sneakers or whatever, but that was just like so cool to see you just push through that. And I think that was probably, if I'm thinking back, like a really big pivotal moment where I'm like, I can bring improv and therapy together because look at how powerful, like, unintentionally this moment was for me. And it still had an air of like playfulness, even though I was bawling.
mm.
And I'm like, keep playing, I got this. But yeah,
That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Chills. I can't imagine hearing that too. And yeah, like we compare, we're like, oh, I sang about sneakers or how much I like to run or whatever. And you're
yeah,
putting your heart and soul, and it's okay. Like it's
totally.
whatever was in the moment for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And how healing that is.
And also
There's
how
just so
healing it was,
much.
like, for it to be received, you know? There's always that
Yes.
fear of, like, me being vulnerable in this moment is gonna be such a turn off, people aren't gonna like me, like, I'm too serious, I'm too emotional,
Yes.
you know, insert all those core beliefs that we might have about ourselves, but then to sort of and that's what I love about the improv community, right? Where people can, like, do show up and honor, like, the beauty of each of us as we are in the moments that we come in, and I don't know, I just, like, never wanna leave the improv community. Like, it's just such a beautiful place to be in.
I agree. In some way, shape, or form, I always want to be doing improv, whether it's classes, which may take a back seat for right now for me in this new era of
Yeah.
life that I have, but just still like having those, safe places and,
Yep.
allowing play to show up in
Yeah.
my world,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. I love that you said that too, because I think, like, play is such an another, like, tenet of improv that I think has also come in my, like, therapy practices of I striking that balance between, of course, like, therapy is serious, you know, I'm not undermining it by any means, but being playful. Life, I mean, just it's I remember I got this feedback before I, like, quit my last job. Somebody was like, "I've been meaning to tell" one of the, like, receptionists, she's like, "I've been meaning to tell you." She's like, "Your clients, every time, like, they leave your office, they just look happier." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." She's
Mhm.
like, "You guys, like, just open the door and you come out just, like, laughing about something." And I'm like, I don't intend it. I'm not trying to be like, "I've gotta end on a joke," but
Right.
what a beautiful thing for somebody else to notice without me, like, asking for it of just there's something about allowing for playfulness, like, in the moment, and I feel very grateful to have these experience. I feel very honored that my playfulness showing up in these spaces with people allows them to open up, allows them to want to come back, allows them to want to say the hard thing, you know?
Mhm.
I'm very lucky to do the work that I do.
I think it means that you're aligned too with what you're doing too, because you're bringing joy, help to people in a time of need, and they don't have to dread going to this appointment. It's a thing that they have to do. It's no, every time I go, I feel better after talking with Selma. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
so important because
yeah,
I think, there's a lot of stigma out there, and that is changing. The mental health world is changing, but there's still some stigma around it.
right.
So if it doesn't feel comfortable, people aren't going to keep doing it. So you
Absolutely.
making them feel comfortable
Yeah.
brings them back.
Yeah, and even just to add, because I don't wanna leave this being like, "Oh, you're always gonna walk away being happy from a therapy session."
Of
I've
course.
definitely
Yeah.
had people, like, you know, leave sessions, like, upset or angry, but there's like, an acceptance, and I don't wanna say content, but there is an acceptance of knowing that that's part of the process and, like, a sense of safety and acknowledgement, like, that this
Yes.
is okay, right? So I just wanna make sure that, like,
Safety.
you know, there's balance in that, like, yes, we can walk away feeling really happy and joyful out of a session, but sometimes it doesn't happen too, and that's okay, and that's normal.
Yeah. Sometimes there's lots of tissues and tears, and you come
Yeah,
out red faced, and you're like,
yeah, I've
oh, but
definitely
it
run
feels.
out of tissues. Yeah, you know, it
Mhm.
happens.
Well, and Selma, I know you love doing DIY projects
Yeah.
and, things to have creative outlets. Any other creative outlets that you're trying to dabble in besides improv, musical improv? All the
Yes, I just started doing clowning, and I
Uh-huh,
think
yeah.
that is a pursuit that I am definitely wanting to do more of. I've been playing around with this idea of putting on, like, a one-woman clown show, and if you had
Oh
asked
my
me this,
god.
I don't know, like, 5 years ago, I would have been like, "I would never," but just yeah, so I keep your eyes out for that. That's my goal for this summer, I think, of
Oh my
just trying to
god.
workshop that and maybe performing it just, like, for it's not for any it's just for fun, like, just I don't
Yeah.
my parents sometimes are just like, "So are you, like, quitting, like, your job, and are you just trying to be, like, an actor or, like, a clown?" And I'm like, "No, this is just a part of my life that brings me joy, that makes me feel connected to, like, my own human experience and just." But yeah,
I wanna
clowning is definitely a big I want it to be a bigger part of my life, so
I wanna be in the audience for that,
great.
clown shows. I will find
Yes.
a babysitter, I'll do what I can.
Love
I
it.
wanna be in the audience for that because
Thank you.
that sounds awesome. Well, and we are recording this in June. I am batch recording before baby comes, so this will come out later in the year, but it is the day before your birthday.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yay! Happy birthday
Thank
when
you so
you're
much.
recording.
Yay.
I don't wanna invalidate your wish, but do you have any wishes for this next year? Any goals, any hopes for this new age
Oh.
of life that you're walking into?
You know, I am human, and so, as much as one of the things that I struggle with is sort of sometimes feeling like a hypocrite where I'm, like, helping my clients, like,
Mhm.
build confidence and believe in their self-worth, but I struggle with that stuff too, and so I think I just
Yeah.
wanna lean into, like, more of that, like, that self-love and that, self-acceptance and letting go of what I can't control and
Mhm.
being at peace with whatever is meant for me. Yeah, I think that's, like, my biggest wish in terms of more just, like, acceptance and, like, finding peace in, whatever my journey is supposed to be, it will be. And then, just planting the seed for success in my business. That would be great.
Yeah. That it is absolutely capable and worthy of success, that you
Yeah.
can find success as a business owner. Absolutely, I go through that too, and I'm on kind of the same journey of, like, just letting go of expectations
Yes.
and perfection and just
Yeah.
allowing what comes up,
Yeah.
come up.
Yep. Yep.
It's very important, yeah.
It's a tough one. I feel like, that perfectionism piece is gets me every time because I feel like I just like the expectations of, me performing well and not just, like, in, like, theater, like, improv, but, like, performing in my life, I
Mhm.
wanna go above and beyond meeting people's expectations, and I get caught up in the feeling resentment when it doesn't go perfectly planned or well, and, that's definitely, like, a thing I want to, like, work on being better at of just, like, that letting go of, like, the perfectionism and the expectations. Yeah. Yeah.
I know you said you're working on doing some group sessions and stuff, and so just in the speaking world, I can relate to that as a speaker. Sometimes you give presentations and you just don't hear feedback. Like, you might put out a survey or whatever, and for whatever reason, people don't take it, and it's not because they hated it, or they just forgot, they didn't take it, whatever. And as a new speaker, that could feel a little crushing to not get any
Really.
feedback
Yeah.
and be like, "How can I improve and how can I do better?" And what I've been working on lately is, do I feel good about how that session went?
Yes.
Did it feel like people were engaged?
Yes.
It If I feel good about it, then it probably went well.
Yep.
And that's what I'm rolling with, and I honestly doing more self-evaluation to be like, "Okay, like, I could crisp up my intro, I could do better on my timing and pacing." And also I generally feel good about
Yeah.
it. So,
I've also found that, like, I don't this isn't, like, a guarantee and this isn't a generalization, but I've also found that, like, when for some reason, I think I can be, like, a very anxious person, and I can present very confidently. So like my anxiety can look like confidence and can look like, oh, like I got this. And I think my anxiety can be very like charming. So like I can be very playful and like, but
Mm,
it's for me, I'm like, I'm well aware that that's my anxiety. So I think like in my experience, what I've also seen is that like when I don't get so much feedback, it's because people think that I'm just like really good or like confident about something. And I'm like, no, like the little anxious girl in me is, I need you to tell me I'm enough. I need you to tell me that I did a good job. I want to hear it. But then people are just like,
mhm.
oh, I thought you knew. And I was like, no, I didn't know. Tell me.
But you know you're enough, right? And yeah, I know that's the thing that we're all working on. Like,
Yes.
of course you're enough. And
Yeah.
being able to step back as a speaker, improviser, performer, person going through this world and being like, that was enough. What I did was enough.
Totally.
There's always room for improvement, but
Absolutely.
that felt good.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to what you just said too, of just like that self-evaluation of like, it's not about when we get too caught up in like how other people are perceiving us and like we're making our self-worth so contingent on that, dangerous
Mhm.
territory to be in versus that self-reflection of, did I feel good about it? And it's funny because that's such a big tenet that I talk about when I'm like teaching clients with like effective communication. I'm like, if
Mhm.
we put our success on that conversation contingent on the outcome of how the other person responded, that's dangerous because we can't control that. Let's say you tend to turn to like crying because like you get so overwhelmed. And so you were able to like effectively manage your emotions. You did these, like you feel good about yourself. Then your success is contingent on what you feel about yourself, not on whether this, because the reality is, yeah, think about like family dynamics, right? Like you have like a partner or like a family member who doesn't take feedback well, and you are being brave to try to give feedback and they get mad and angry at you, does that mean you didn't do a good job? Absolutely not, right? You're doing something new. So, of course, there's a risk that they're not going to respond well. So, if you can self reflect and feel good about what you're doing, that's what matters.
All of it. And I mean, it also relates on stage, like
Yes,
when
yes.
the show, you're like, that was hard, that felt hard. If it felt hard, then lean into that and be like, okay, how can I improve? But lately in my improv journey, I have been feeling better about our shows and in my musical improv performance, our musical improv performance. And I think that's a sign towards
Yes,
improvement and
yes.
positivity too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Not
love
every show is gonna be a home run, and that's
Yeah,
can you still feel good about how you played and how you supported and
yeah,
what you brought to the table?
totally. Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Selma, I could keep going forever,
I know, me too. That's why every time I like say something, I was like, should I just keep? I'm like, I could do this for 3 hours more.
and that's why we carpool so well together. I loved our drive to Camp West. I think it was like a 4-hour drive or so,
Yeah, it went
less
by like
than.
that.
It did, because we just did this, talk about life and
Yeah.
improv and all the things, and honestly, I love it, and I so appreciate it. I know our listeners are listening, loving you, and
Oh,
hoping to, chat with you more, whether about life, improv, therapy, whatever it is.
yeah.
Where and how can our listeners find out more about you?
Yeah. So my therapy practice. So if anybody's out there looking for a therapist, put a plug for me in now. www.braveyoutherapy.com. Same handle for Instagram. And then on a personal note, my Instagram is loveyourchaos_X.
I love that handle too. That's
Thank
a
you.
great therapy one, life one. Love your
Right?
chaos.
Love your chaos. Yeah. Because there's so many words in this world that have such a negative connotation to it. So let's change it, right? Chaos does not have to be bad and negative. Like I am
Mhm.
chaotic in a very beautiful and good way, and I love my chaos.
Yes. Oh, love that. You also have Singing in the Range as
Oh
your.
yes, yes, musical improv, singing in the range. Also, that's the handle on social media. Find us, come to our shows.
Yeah, I'll be on a hiatus for a little while, but we have some new team members
Yes,
who are gonna be amazing. Our team's performing tomorrow. When we're recording this, our team's performing tomorrow. We usually have about monthly shows that we're
just about,
doing.
yeah. This month we have two, or did we have
Yeah.
3. Did we have one earlier this June? Or no, it was the end of May, but
It was the end of May. It was May
yeah.
31st. Yeah.
But yeah, we have 2 shows back to back, which is exciting. We're at a new venue tomorrow, so that's fun. That's exciting.
Yay. Go singing in the range. I love it.
Woo!
I'm curious. Last question for you as we
Yeah.
wrap up. In terms of improv goals, do you have a goal where you're like, if I do this in improv, if I make it on this stage, if I do this, then I've made it goal complete. Like everything else
Mm.
I do is a bonus. Do you ever think about that?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think I have a specific, like, if this thing specifically happens, then I've made it. But that, like, those come up. Like, sometimes when I have somebody that I, like, really look up to, I remember, like, one show, this was when I was in San Diego with, like, people that I, like, look up to. And if I can make this guy laugh in the audience, then, like, I've made it.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember it was a particular person, and I literally heard his laugh when I was on stage. And I was like, yes. I win. I won at improv. But I think in general, I think it's a lifelong journey because I hope I never get to a point where I feel like perfectly good at it. Cause
That would be
you know what
hard.
I mean? I'm like, I wanna feel confident and good about what I do, but also know, like, there are things that I could improve or, like, do better, but not in, like, a, like, negative way. Just I wanna like, even just, like, finding clowning, like, there's something a new world that I'm, like, stepping into. So, like, I hope that there are new things that I can explore, for the rest of my life with, like, improv, whether it maybe becomes, like, coaching or teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
hope I don't settle into, if I do this thing, then I'm done. 'Cause it feel I
Very
don't I know
finite.
that's not your intention, but it feels very absolute, like, "That's it, I'm done,
Mhm.
like, I've accomplished it all, I don't need to do more," and I never wanna not do more.
I love that answer because it is a very finite question of like kind of saying, well, there would be an end and there doesn't have to be an end.
Yeah,
And kind of having that balance of you can have this thing and also have this thing and like continue to improve and continue to feel good about it, get better.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Good to
Dialectics.
end on. Yes, exactly. Right. All
Yeah.
right. I'm going to stop asking you questions just so that we don't go another 2 hours. But
Okay, fine.
almost, I know I'll give you a break. I'll let you play with your beautiful little kitties who have been really good, by
They
the way.
really have.
They've been so quiet. Maybe my
It's
voice has
impressive.
lulled them to sleep. I don't know, but they've been
Lullaby.
super good the
Yeah.
past hour and a half of
Kiddo
this
is I
recording.
see him, he's up on his little hammock sleeping.
Oh, you're like, "Oh, she's talking about therapy again."
Yeah, yeah. They just know, they tune it out now.
Yeah. Oh, Selma, happy early birthday
Thank you so
as we're
much,
recording
Dana.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on. I so appreciate you,
Yay.
and I can't wait to see all that you accomplish in your business, in your
Thank you.
improv journey, in your clowning journey now.
Thanks.
Yes, and go
All
out
of
and
it.
accomplish, do all the things.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. Oh my goodness. I love just chatting with Salma all about life and the balance of life. I mean, you can imagine we could have kept talking forever, honestly. Like just question after question. Just there's so much that comes up that we can expand upon and just be like, yeah, and then this, and then this. And she's such a good friend and person to chat with. We have some really amazing, vulnerable conversations. And I think that speaks to her willingness to ask questions and be vulnerable as well and keep the conversation going. I mentioned last year in May 2023, we rode together to Camp West in Cambria, California for Camp Improv Utopia West Camp. And we had so much fun. We did a lot of chatting. And then I think the way back, we just sang Disney songs and musicals and stuff. So she's a great road trip partner too, because we just chatted up and talk about all the things, just like we did today. I really love how Selma is using the skills of improv to help in her therapy practice. And I mean, every episode kind of highlights how improv shows up everywhere, but it never really gets old. I love seeing how the applications of improv, these very basic skills and tenets of improv, saying yes and letting go of perfection and listening and communicating, listening to understand rather than respond, and supporting your scene partner, making your scene partner look good, embracing mistakes and learning from them. And I know these are all simple terms, and it's like, yeah, well, like, of course, but these aren't terms that we talk about a bunch in life. We're not really taught to embrace mistakes, but in improv, you are. And then once you're taught that and you experience it on stage and you kind of see, okay, that wasn't that bad to have that mistake, and actually, like, something funny or something interesting came up from it, you start to be okay with the imperfections and the mistakes and the quote unquote failures. You start to embrace that. And I just love seeing how all of these very simple skills can translate into our lives and our professional work. And I have no doubts that, without improv, I'm sure Selma would be an amazing therapist and support and help her clients. Like, that seems pretty innate and intuitive to her already. And I think the improv skills just enhance her ability to really listen and be vulnerable and accept what's coming up in the moment instead of trying to force a certain direction or stay on track or stay on task for what the modality is or what the theory or the model that she's trying to use, you know, like allowing for flexibility and stuff. I think it goes a long way. And I'm sure there's plenty of different trainings for therapists to learn and improve, and they get so much training already. And it's just cool to see how these improv skills can show up and help that as well. I love that. And so it's great to hear that there are people to help you if you're struggling or you're kind of having red flags a bit with your relationship with food. Seek help and talk to someone about it. I'm so glad that I did. That was my first experience with therapy. I certainly could have used it a lot earlier than college, but it wasn't something that was talked about or utilized just in my era of growing up or where I grew up. I don't know. It just wasn't utilized or talked about. I do think therapy and mental health issues and mental health awareness is talked about a whole lot more now. The public health world, the mental health world has done, in my opinion, a good job of decreasing the stigma. There are more outlets for therapy. There's more access to therapy, although not enough. I do hear there's a shortage of therapists too. I will tell you, I've been trying to find someone to help with any kind of maternal mental health issues that I might have after baby comes, and I want to have a relationship with someone before baby's here. And I did call the hospital that I'm delivering at to try to get a consultation with their therapists. And I called in June, mid-June, and the next available appointment was September for just an initial consultation. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I think I'm gonna need help before then. So I guess I'm on my own to go find someone else. I do have other options, but there is an accessibility issue too. I also can relate just in my work in worksite wellness that a lot of companies have EAPs or employee assistance programs that provide them access to therapists. And I've tried to utilize mine in the past. This was a few years ago, and I called and they gave me a list of 3 therapists in my area. And I called and none of them were taking new patients. Or I think one was taking patients and the only available time was like 11 a.m. on a Wednesday when I was working. And this was before COVID at the time. I couldn't take off at work and go to a therapy session. It didn't work with my schedule. Now, post-COVID, there's a lot of virtual therapy options. There is more accessibility. I am recognizing that we have done better to reduce the stigma. And also, there's still room for improvement in fixing those access issues. I, of course, want to remind you and encourage you, if you are feeling anything different about yourself, or you're not feeling quite like yourself and feeling like something is getting in the way, maybe you're feeling extra down, or you're just noticing changes that haven't been there. Whatever it is, I really encourage you to find someone that you feel comfortable talking to, getting the help you need. It's really important. It can go a long way, and it takes time too. It takes time to make these changes and see these changes and heal from, a lifetime of issues. And I'm being very general. There's just so many different things that can affect people, and it's all okay. If you're being affected by something, it is absolutely okay to talk to someone about it and get help that you need. It can save your life, it can improve your life, it can make life more enjoyable too. Once you get the help you need and you're, you know, doing the things you want and living the life you want, that can make life more enjoyable. I really appreciated Selma sharing too. There are so many things we talked about in this episode, but one of the things that stands out is when we were talking about how I want to be a good model for baby G. And I was really focused on, don't talk about her weight, don't talk about her appearance, don't talk about myself in a poor way, don't use the F word, the fat word. There were a lot of no's. It was a huge list of no's that I was saying, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I didn't even realize that. But in my head, that's the list of, okay, I'm going to avoid this and avoid this and avoid doing this. And I really liked what she said of like, certainly, yes, you can have those things you want to avoid, but let's reframe it into maybe some more positive ways to look at it. So, instead of saying, no, we're not going to talk about this, say, okay, well, we're going to focus on what she did, how she did this activity, and instead of what she looked like in doing this activity. And we're going to focus on having, a healthy balance of food instead of, referring to foods as good or bad. And so it's this slight reframe of, instead of don'ts, it's what do we want to do instead? And if we really lean into doing the things we want to do instead and the behaviors we want to do, then naturally the things that we don't want to happen fall away and they don't happen as much because we're doing the things that we enjoy, that come easy to us, and that we can say yes to. I love that. It's more like saying yes to the things that light us up rather than avoiding the things that we don't want to do. And I find that really powerful. And so I just want you to reflect on that. There's a lot to reflect on here, certainly, but reflect on a behavior or thing that you want to change. And are you avoiding it, or are you finding something to do instead? And then and hopefully, all healthy behaviors and what you deem as healthy, but just saying like, I'm going to do this thing that lights me up, or I'm going to say this thing instead of focusing on all the don'ts. I'm going to focus on all the do's. That's really powerful. Very subtle and yet very, very powerful. I also liked what Salma said at the end when I asked her about, do you have any improv success goals? If I make it on this stage, or if I make it on this team, if I make it with this theater, then I've made it and everything else is just a bonus. And I asked that question really because I think like that. At least when I first started my improv journey, I did think a lot like that. I would think, oh, if I get on this team, like, then I've made it. Oh, if I make it on a UCB team, that's amazing. Or if I make it on this podcast, that would be amazing, which honestly, like, if I made it on Comedy Bang Bang as a character on that podcast, I would be absolutely thrilled. But I don't think you have to have it so finite of like, if I make it here, then I'm done and I'm good kind of thing. I think that is a very kind of finite way of looking at things. And I'm very guilty of doing that. I'm very much motivated by kind of deadlines or endings. I think I did really well in school a lot of times because school had kind of an end point. Even like playing sports, there was an end point to the season. The season's done, you end with nationals, you end with state or playoffs, whatever, and then it's done. And then you move on to the next thing. Same thing with school. You end at the end of the year with exams, maybe a graduation or something, and then you move on to the next thing. And I find that my mind works really well like that, and I want a lot of other things to be like that. And life isn't really like that. Like, it kind of just keeps going. Life just keeps lifing. And, if you're constantly looking for this end point, then are you really enjoying the whole process and the whole journey? And so I'm actually reflecting on that question that I asked too. And there wasn't really a harm there or something, but it was just kind of I forgot how Selma called herself a metaphorical mirror of reflecting that back to me and just be like, yeah, you're right. That's kind of a very end focused question. Whereas I don't want improv to end. Salma said she didn't want improv to ever end. Like she wants to keep using it, doing it. And there doesn't need to be this big, like, moment of I've quote unquote made it. Like you can just keep doing it and enjoying it for the rest of your life and discovering what comes up there. And I'm willing to bet that if you leave it open ended like that you can actually have more quote unquote achievements and accomplishments rather than if you set out for this one goal and this one thing. I've got to make it on this team. I've got to make it on the stage, blah, blah, blah. I want to be the best well-known instructor, whatever it is. I'm willing to bet you actually achieve more when you leave it open-ended rather than this very micro-focused goal. Just a theory. All right, lots to unpack there. I'm going to leave it at that because otherwise I would just keep talking forever. And I want to encourage you again, if anything came up for you, you want to chat with Selma, please reach out to her. Obviously, you can see she is amazing. Check out her therapy practice, reach out to her. We talked today a lot about eating disorders and how she helps clients with that. She can help clients with a lot of other areas and issues and things coming up. So it's not just eating disorders focused. Reach out to her if you have any questions, of course. And let me know if anything came up for you, if you want to chat, any kind of light bulb moments, epiphany moments. I thought this episode was great, so I really enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Improvly Speaking. On LinkedIn, I'm at Dana Gowan, and my website is improvryspeaking.com. When this episode comes out, I hope, and I think Baby G will be here, and I'm saying Baby G because we have a name in mind, but honestly, we've said it's gonna have to be a game time decision. Like, we're gonna have to see her and be like, yeah, she's this name. So I'm being a little secretive on the name just because we're not quite sure yet. So I don't want to use a name here and then we end up changing it. But Baby G should be here. And I am really excited to step into this new role as mom. I am planning to do a few solo episodes about being mom and embracing change and embracing the uncertainty of change as well. I also want to talk with other parents to see how they use improv skills in their parenting and in their lives now with kids and children. So there might be a few episodes focused on that. I really appreciate you listening and supporting Improvly Speaking during this time and in the future. Here's your gentle reminder and encouragement. We talked a lot today about yes and how yes and mindset shows up everywhere in everything you do. So here's your gentle reminder to say yes and flex your creative thinking. I'll talk to you next time.